Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Comm Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can always read my work on ESPN.com. And don't forget, too, if you want to become a club member of the show, go to the Empire Media YouTube page, see the word join, click on there, find your membership level, and go from there. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I have Craig Hoffman from 1067, the Take Command podcast, a bunch of other things that you can go into later if you want to do that. But basically right now, we're going to wrap up a few days of training camp. And I wanted to get Craig's opinion. He's been out here a lot. Very smart dude. So Craig, early takeaways after a few days of practice.
Well, first of all, to see your intro in person. Wow. What an experience. As a regular listener to the John Keim Report, I feel honored. I think the biggest thing for me, John, is the messaging matches the substance. And I think that is the biggest difference between now and years past. And I think we've always kind of understood that there was some kind of disconnect that wasn't quite there, but I think it's very clarifying when you see it. You're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. And so whether it's being detail oriented, whether it is caring about certain things and not caring about others and claiming that is actually what you're about, there is all kinds of things, and we can get into details at whatever position group, whatever. But I think substantively caring about what happens versus caring about the narrative, the kind of what everyone's saying, and realizing the way for us to say good things about you as a team is to do good things. And they are hyper focused on doing good things.
How much do you think that stems from? Obviously, that's Dan Quinn is the head coach. He's going to set out here, but the organization, he talked about it on the first day of camp, which is one voice, one, vision.
Yeah.
And does that flow from there? Or do you think there's something unique even just with the coaches?
Well, I think it starts at ownership, right? It starts because you're empowered to think that way by ownership. And I remember someone over the last year telling me Josh Harris does not care about media narratives because he has been exposed to being the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers. And if you think we're rough, try going to the Philly media market, try having 50 wins a season and having the league MVP and all the things that the Sixers have had success-wise, where you have fallen short in the playoffs, and dealing with Philly sports fans on that front. He's pretty hardened as an owner. And I think he really just cares about the substance of what is happening. And that is a difference maker that empowers then Adam Peters to think that way, which empowers Dan Quinn to think that way. So one, I think, Josh was looking for people that thought that way. So in some ways, it's the same as the players. You are both solving your problems by importing the right people and then coaching them the right way. And I think that also goes with the front office and coaching staff personnel. They were looking for certain characteristics, looking for people that thought a certain way. They went and found them, and now they're just acting that out of who they authentically are.
And I don't think we're going to see guys get kept on this roster because of their story. And I think that, I had in the past, I had an agent call me should I start spreading this about my player because it's a good, it might fit that story that they're looking for to give this guy more work or a new contract or whatever. That stuff isn't going to happen anymore.
No, for sure. You're I don't know. Can your guy play? That would be this.
And I told the guy, that's right. It's funny because I told that guy, I was like, your guy can play. He's okay. He's not here anymore, but the point is he didn't need that. But the thought process was people outside here saw this guy's being kept because that they felt like he's more of a good story than he was a guy that really could help the 53.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's something that I've thought about a lot the last couple of days too, is I've been thinking about when I'm going to do my first 53 on the radio and realizing that there's 62 guys and that's not going to work with the math. Because I know that some of these UDFAs can really play. And is a UDFA making a team a good story? Yes. But so is a 7th round draft pick. So is a multi-year veteran. So it's there's plenty of good stories, and making the team is the story, but you have a lot of guys that can play, and you are talking about at almost every position group, 1, 2, 3, too many guys that can play, so to speak. And again, that doesn't mean that we're all of a sudden saying this is the most talented team in the NFL, that they're Super Bowl contenders, because the high end talent is still something that needs to be built, that kind of championship caliber superstar level. But in terms of just really legitimate NFL football players that are not going to be lost if they wind up having to play snaps, I think they got a lot of dudes, and they have a lot of guys with potential who have really good physical traits, that have the right mindset. And I think all of those things are great signs in terms of the direction the organization is going.
And I think it also translates then to the coaches you hire on the staff.
Yeah.
And I think then it's like, again, you're finding somebody with a like-minded process, vision, et cetera. And one of the things that has jumped out when talking to the players is the attention to details, especially with the defensive backs. And I talked to Emmanuel Forbes the other day. I know you talked to St. Juice, and I talked to Quan Martin on the side. It's just like the freedom they feel they can have, they can play with. That's part of a mental mindset, but it's also then within that giving you like, this is exactly what, on this play, you can take this chance, on this route, you can do this, but it's okay if you miss. We want you to go for the ball. So but the detail oriented aspect on the stance, Jeremy Reeves told me they're watching the film. It's like the details on the stance, it's different.
Yeah. No, I think that also, mental clarity when you are playing leads to confidence, and confidence is going to lead to obviously higher performance. And so St. Juice gave me a great example that I think is very, very clean and clear. And on a specific coverage, didn't tell me what the coverage was, but it's like, we want you to jump the post. If they complete the out, that's on us as a coaching staff. I don't care. And if last year, you're like, I got to cover the post and the out. Those are two opposite directions. You cannot cover both things maximally. And you're certainly not going to go pick off the post if you're worried about the out, because it's a 1 or 2 step league. It's a half step league. The margins are so small. And so if I give up that, not only if I give up the out, am I not in trouble, but I will be told, good job. That is so mentally freeing to just go do the thing with intention, which is a word that I've heard a lot as well, with intention. And that is going to create a fast, physical, playmaking defense. And I think when you hear that, and that Juice was like, that comes directly from Joe Witt, you instantly understand why Joe Witt has been so successful coaching defensive backs in this league, because he so clarifies their assignments that they can just go do one thing. And if you're worried about one thing, that is a lot easier than if you're worried about 3 or 7 things.
And I was going to say too, as when you're playing defensive back, if you're not sure, you play unsure, you make mistakes. And there were times we saw that last year. And I think even Forbes watching practice on Thursday made a few breaks in the ball. He looked different. Now, how that translates season, we don't know yet. You got to go against other teams, but you're seeing some things out there that's a little bit different. And, but it is you're playing more confidence and more sure. And fast and physical comes from understanding assignments, knowing exactly what you need to do. And Dallas's defense under Quinn, they played fast and physical.
Well, right. And also, if you're trying to cover 5 things, you're actually covering nothing.
Right.
Because again, the margins are so small. The athletes are so good in this league that you have to fully commit to covering the thing that you are supposed to. And if you can't commit to anything because you're worried about everything, you're never going to actually cover the thing that the coverage was designed. Mm-hmm. And every coverage has its strengths and weaknesses. And, we understand that, and you're going to give some stuff up. But if you know that you're covering what you're supposed to, your teammates are covering what they're supposed to, it helps shrink that down. And you're then giving up what you want to. And it's up to the offense to take what the defense gives them, to use the cliched term. But if you give up a bunch of 5-yard outs or 3-yard out routes, who cares? That's not going to move the needle. And I think, you and I were talking about the interview that McVay did.
I was just going to bring that up because it went right to the explosive plays.
Exactly.
I know you're going.
And so Sean McVay did an interview with Robert Mays the other day on the Athletic Football Show, where he's like, the biggest change in the last 5 years in the NFL is we have realized that explosives, getting them offensively, giving them up defensively, are the key to winning in this league. And so if you can prevent explosives defensively because you are giving up 5-yard out routes, but you do not have the coverage busts of guys being confused on the back end, you have taken your defense from one of the 5 worst in football to a floor of top half just by not giving up explosives.
And it's funny because I was thinking the same thing, because I just listened to that interview the other day, and that was my first thought, is that taking that away and making them drive, because how many teams are really patient enough to do that? And it's, it sounds like, take what's there, but very few quarterbacks are capable of doing that all for an entire drive. They're going to want to squeeze it in. They're going to get impatient a little bit. So if you can force them, now maybe you have a chance to make a big play yourself.
Warren Sharp came on our show a couple of years ago. So this data is now 2 years dated, but I can't imagine it changed that much in the last 2 seasons. On drives where there was an explosive, so 20+ yard pass or 15+ yard run, they said the likelihood of scoring was 55% based off what they studied. It's 5% when you don't. That is an insanely.
This was a 5% team. This team was in the 5% last year.
Oh, the entire 5% actually was against the Commanders. So there was that was. But yeah, that stat just illustrates so cleanly the power of the explosives of this league.
Yeah, and that's where you take that away, but also can you find more? And I think with Jaden Daniels, quarterback with, with McLaurin has the ability to get down there, you need Dotson to be one of those guys that can help get you there. So will Jaden Daniels climb to the top of the NFC East? Will the Commanders zip past the competition? We'll have to wait until the season starts to see, but you can get a head start on the competition this summer at the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring. Named the #1 aerial adventure park in North America by USA Today, the country's largest ropes course and zipline park is now open 7 days a week. Located in the heart of Montgomery County, Maryland, the Adventure Park offers climbing, ziplining, axe throwing, food, and more. Experience adventure day or night with your family, or leave the kids at home for one of the exclusive Keep It Lit adult-only events. These summer date nights are perfect, featuring glow lights, music, fire pits, and endless adventure. With challenges anywhere from beginner to expert, there is something for all skill levels. Not looking to scramble through the trees? Keep your feet planted in the pocket and throw a perfect spiral at axe throwing. You can throw at traditional targets or play any number of interactive games. You can even upload your own image. Anytime you're thinking about reaching new heights, make sure you know before you go. The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is the only ACCT accredited park in Maryland or Virginia. So there you have it, folks. The best climbing, ziplining, and axe throwing in the country right here in the DMV. Reserve your adventure today at www.theadventurepark.com/kind. Would have been some just on the field with some of the other stuff. What are some of the little changes or observations that have stuck with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the communication defensively is huge. That's one that instantly, and I do think it was interesting on Thursday's practice. I noted this, that like as the ranks, if you will, as the phases of the depth chart got on the field, it got a little quieter. Like those top guys really understand that at a high level. Like when Wagner and Shin and Luvu and Quan are out there, like they are chirping. And the second team's not quite as loud. The third team's not quite as loud. So you see, like part of being a great player is communicating. Offensively, I think the tempo definitely stands out. The way that they're just able to get in and out of plays, everyone seems to be on the same page. Jaden, how he gets the ball out. Frankly, Mariota, how he doesn't. I think that is something that is very interesting because you'd expect the veteran to understand where to go. But Jaden just has an ability to kind of process it quickly. I think his eyes are better than we maybe even saw on tape at LSU. And I think you also see the impact of a guy like Zach Ertz. And I've talked to some guys and his name keeps coming up about the off the field stuff, but on the field, like, dude still got it. And we talked to him the other day for Take Command, and he's like, this is the first offseason in a couple of years that I've been healthy going into it. So this is the best offseason I've had in a couple of years because I haven't had to spend time rehabbing. And so I think Zach, not that he's going to go be, 26-year-old Eagles Zach Ertz, but I think Ertz can be a real impact player offensively and a good safety blanket for Jaden this year.
And I think that's whereas over the middle, they brought in two guys that can help him in those areas with Eckler and Ertz. Yeah. Now, not Ertz, or excuse me, Eckler's not just going to be an over the middle guy, but the safety valves. And I think that was very smart. But Ertz in particular early in camp, and even the spring, there was a lot of stuff over the middle where he was able to get free and Jaden would have a connection with him. I'm with you on Mariota. I've been surprised at how hesitant or indecisive he is in the red zone anywhere. And that, whereas Daniels does not look like that. That's been a surprise to me.
I will say on the positive note for Mariota, his name did come up. I was having a conversation on the side with a player about kind of the togetherness and some of the different things that DQ has done to build the culture. And unprompted, it was like, oh, Zach, Bobby, Marcus. So like, I do think Marcus Mariota is here to be a veteran. Brian Johnson, that was kind of his guy to bring along. That part he seems to be doing well, which I think a lot of people had questions about after the quarterback show and him leaving Atlanta the way he did. But I do think on that element, he's good. The problem is if he has to play, which hopefully is not an issue because Jaden seems to be farther along than we imagined.
Well, and to that point on Mariota, somebody had told me who was close to Jaden that he's been really, really good with Downs, really good. And then you hear like McLaurin talking about going golfing with him and all that. So I think he understands his role here for sure. And it's not, listen, we all know the competition is between Jaden and Daniels. It's not between Daniels
right.
and Mariota. And he knows that. Like, he's not he was a number 2 pick back in the day. So what are some other little things for Daniels maybe that have stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because it's so early. And I am curious when the pads get on with the pass rush, how he handles some of the muddier pockets. And so that is going to be the thing. It's like, how do you manipulate space in the pocket? How quickly can you continue to deliver the football? If your feet are a little bit of a mess, can you be accurate? We haven't seen him air it out a ton yet. They also haven't had a lot of situations practice wise where that's been set up. They've been doing so much red zone. But I think the efficiency in the red zone's been nice. Like he's converted on some plays. We saw the first snap he took in 7-on-7, I think it was on Wednesday, the first practice, where he hits B-Rob on the kind of this slot fade looking route, or slot fade similar throw. I think it was actually a corner, where B-Rob is coming. But it's like that same exact trajectory that we saw him hit time after time after time in college. So I'm really curious as we go and his fans get to come out and watch and they get into more full field, move the ball stuff. How does the deep ball look? He had one opportunity on Thursday to Luke McCaffrey that he missed in a move the ball situation, but literally because the ball has been put at like the 20-yard line and in, there's no deep stuff available. Right. So as that happens, one, how does his deep ball look? Can he find that in the NFL the way he did with Neighbors and Thomas and all those guys at LSU? But two, as the field opens up, what does it mean for him running the football? What does it mean for the other parts of his game? So I know that's a lot of like, I'm looking forward, not things that I've seen right now, but it's in part because I think part of training camp that I'm really appreciative of having Logan about, and on my show, and I know you talk to Logan about this all the time, is like, hey, what was the point of that drill? Right. Who was supposed to win it? Like this drill is set up for the defense. I think because of the structure they've used, a lot of red zone, a lot of stuff, there's still so much to see with him down in, down out.
And it's funny you bring up the legs. We haven't seen really the incorporation of that yet because you're not. What they want to do out here now is get used to the timing, and they do work on more some more detailed things with like the scramble drills and things like that. You want to get used to that, but we haven't seen the impact of that. Like for example, defenses and this is the VR stuff too. You see like, okay, I know based on the VR work and all that this is a cover one. They're going to be playing this. So if the first thing isn't there, I know I can go. So it may look like a one read and go. But really, it's a smart play because, like, I know I have 30 yards over here because they're turning their backs to me. If I get through here, then I'm gone. You know what I mean?
No, I think one of the things that's like truly,
I'm sorry, that regulates the defense too.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think one of the things that elite quarterbacks do better, this is a truly elite trait amongst quarterbacks. They eliminate multiple things by identifying, and it's harder than it's ever been because defenses aren't in straight cover one. They're not in straight cover three. Like it's not the dots you see on Madden. They're in these amorphous zones. They do a really good job, defensive coordinators, of being like, hey, if you're kind of not involved in the progression right here, just kind of sit in this weird amoeba spot and don't give away a clean look to the quarterback. But if you can see through that stuff and you're like, oh, it's man, and my first and second read are dead and everyone's back is turned, well, let me run. Or hey, it's cover one. I know that I have a cover two beater over here. I don't even need to look at that side of the field anymore. And the ability not to go through a linear 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 progression and get through all 5 eligibles. Like, yeah, that's great. But sometimes you go 1 to 4 because based off the coverage that 2 and 3 are dead. And maybe you get to 4 is dead. And now I run sooner and I don't let the defense adjust to me. So like that ability to eliminate things in mass and process kind of chunks instead of individual reads is something that I think he has and has shown at LSU. And I think it's something that they're definitely coaching him up on to be the best version of himself here.
And where the legs help. And really and again, going back to the McVay podcast, they talked about this too, and even Sean was like, sometimes he's watching, he's not even sure what the coverage is. This is a guy who is an expert in offense. And we'll say that, like, that's how my first thought was, I go back to last year's, like, you could have told with this team. Cause usually they, you know what I mean? Like there was not a lot of that. And that was to me a problem, but by and large, defenses are better with that. And, when people talk about like running quarterbacks or got quarterbacks who can run, a lot of times it's like quarterbacks who can move in the pocket and dissect and keep it going like that. Well, Daniels can do that. Now he can also run too. I like that he's a quarterback who can run, not a runner who can throw.
Right.
But I think that adds another element. Like if you're not sure as you develop in this league, it gives you another weapon that you can maximize to keep the ball moving as you learn.
No, definitely. And like at the end of the day, like you want to be successful on offense.
Yeah.
And how you go about it is not like it is secondary, right? It's not important, but it's secondary. Once the out here, it's maybe the most important thing, the process over the result. End of the day, you got to win games on Sundays. And so if you can run the football and get a first down and then, oh, my process was perfect on this new first down and we threw a touchdown pass, then great. That touchdown pass never happens if you don't run it. I think the other thing I think about with this topic is we talked to Matt Ryan last year and defense has shifted throughout his career. By the end, he's facing more of these amoeba things. And he's like, there were times that in a play, I had no idea what the coverage was, but I knew that if I could isolate a single defender, that would like, I didn't need to know the other 10. I needed to know where that guy was. And because if I knew where the nickel was, well, if he's up, then I throw down. If he's down, I throw up. And that was good enough for me. And so, and I think about like what they're talking about with St. Juice and the clarity defensively, we're just looking at this one thing. Can Cliff create that kind of cleanliness, if you will, that clarity on offense for Jaden to be like, hey man, sometimes you don't know if it's 2, 3, 6, 4, like we don't know what the coverage is, but if you know where that guy is, that guy's open. And I think Cliff has been very, very good at that reputationally throughout his career.
Yes, and the motion, pre-snap motion, isn't the only indicator to get there, because you see a lot of times where there's a pre-snap motion, you think it's man, and then the guy's dropping into zone. So it's like it can fool you as well. So that's where it's like, and there's certain things you can look at, the overhang linebacker. You can look at things like that that give you enough clues. Like, okay, on this play, is this guy the overhang or not? And so if he is, this is where I can go. And you know what I mean? So like
Ertz talked about that with us the other day, that because linebackers are huge tells for him because they have run responsibilities and there's only so much you can disguise. It's one thing if you're a safety and you're 4.3 fast and like you can, I mean, Palomalu is obviously like an extreme version of this, but like he'd be in the A gap and wind up as a single high safety 30 yards off the ball. Like, that's the ultimate disguise.
Taylor did that.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah. Linebackers can't do that stuff. They're not fast enough. They're not good enough athletes, and their run fits are too tight to the line. And so Zach was saying, like, I can tell certain things by looking at the linebacker, because if he is a half yard here, a half yard there, there's only so much he can do because of his run responsibility. And there's only that, thus he is only going to tip off certain number of things. And I know I can beat him to a certain spot if it's, coverage A or coverage B. So I thought that was really interesting. And the linebackers definitely are really, really huge for that. And then, also I think you think about some of the zone man stuff, and if they're trying to get the ball to Terry on the outside, like if it's man or if it's cover 3, it doesn't matter. That outside corner is
the man
the exact same. Yeah. And do you win one-on-one? And so Jaden's ability to just make accurate throws, and like, we saw that on Thursday. He hit, I don't know what the coverage was. I don't know if it was double move. All of a sudden I looked up and the ball's going deep to Terry down the field. And so I think that actually might've been Mariota actually on that throw, but same thing though. Just like, doesn't matter what the coverage was, the Taylor Heineke, bleep it, Terry's down there somewhere.
Well, the funny thing is too, with the accuracy, there are a couple throws where I think for Daniels that you're going to learn where it's like, that doesn't look like it's an off target throw, but the coverage is so tight that in college, it's a good throw. In the NFL, it's an incompletion, and it could be the difference of 6 inches. And so I think like I think there've been a couple times out here when like it looks like coming off his hands, like, oh, he's got him, but the coverage was really good. So you got to put it just a little bit more outside. But that's a good lesson for him to learn out here.
Yeah, for sure. I'll flip this question back on you. When do they need to decide on who is QB1 and shift from, I mean, they know, right? Let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. They know it's Daniels, right? But when do they stop? And I think this is true, like O-line chemistry, all this stuff, evaluating and kind of deciding the depth chart to like, we need to build chemistry. Because on that note, this is what sparked that thought. Okay, let's say the throw is 6 inches here, 6 inches there. That is a chemistry thing that can lead to completion, instant tackle versus catch and run situation. Like, when do you start as a team and as an offense, especially developing that chemistry and focusing on preparing for the season versus evaluating? And I think the joint practices is probably a big one.
I think I'm curious. To me, the joint practices are the key, because preseason games, you're only going to get so many reps.
Right.
The joint practices, you get a ton of reps, situational reps that really, I think, reveal a lot more. And I also think it's how coaches process that information. Like last year against Baltimore, I felt like every time I looked up, I'd see Forbes in trouble. And then I'd hear different things from coaches like, well, that's not really what you're seeing. I think you're trying to see what you want to see. It was almost like I'd go on the driving range for golf, right? I might hit a couple 9-irons that are true and down the middle, nice loft, and then 4 others that aren't. In my mind, I hit these 2 perfect ones. Where do I hit on the course? Like, that's what, you know what I mean? Like, and unfortunately, I was hitting the bad ones on the course too often. I think so to me, it's all how you process that information. But I do think the joint practices are the key, because you're going against a defense, see what he can do. Like you've seen out here, certainly looks good out here, looks better than Mariota for what we're seeing, the results of the play. But I go through that. And then, I think the one thing that helps is they do rotate a lot with him. It's not like today you're 1, today you're 2. It's in this drill you're 1, in this drill you're 2. So they are getting those reps with each guy. And I think it's important for Mariota to get some of those reps, because just to be prepared, that's a new team for him, but Daniels is getting those. And a lot of times he's the first quarterback out there. So I think that helps, but I think it's after that second joint practice, after that second preseason game, then it's like, then if you get through those unscathed, I think you come out on the 21st, like, this is the guy.
Yeah, no, I think so. And then at that point, you try to develop that rhythm and turn those, slightly inaccurate. Maybe it's good enough in college throws to like, all right, let's ball in the NFL. And you got a couple weeks to do that, which is nice.
Right. And the last thing, anything from Jamin Davis that you've seen as an edge guy, or is it like Quinn said, you're not going to decide this in 1 or 2 days, but have you seen anything there at all?
I think it's interesting because what Quinn said Thursday morning was really clarifying of like, we want this guy to be third down, 2 minute. He is adding to our stable of pass rushers. And if that's the goal, okay, that seems smart, because I saw him try to set an edge on Thursday as a full-time defensive end, and boy, did that not go great. No. But they're not going to ask him to do that stuff. I think the problem right now is, though, like you say that he's not getting any reps at linebacker. He is an edge full time right now. Mm-hmm. And so don't tell us, this is one of those things to go back to what we started. Like, don't tell us one thing and then do another. But I think Jamin Davis could be in a little bit of trouble here, because it's not like they're practicing him at linebacker and saying, oh, in special situations, you'll be here. Like, they're trying to convert him to an edge. And I don't know that it's going as well as it needs to for him to make this team. Now, if he's a dog on special teams and can be a pass rusher, like, those are two very valuable things. So I'm not saying, and an emergency linebacker, right? So I'm not saying he's dead in the water after a couple of days of practice, but I do think it is worth watching. And I definitely do not think, as we talked about how hard it is to put together a 53 right now, I do not think his spot is safe.
I don't think it's safe either. And I think that he did cover, they did work him as a linebacker in the spring OTA sessions.
Right.
Not since minicamp. I haven't seen him there at all. So what did they see there? Because you still need to learn this defense from that spot if they think you're going to have a role there. I also think they like Jordan McGee a decent amount. They got other guys.
Well,
like
they have
Walker.
McGee in that pass rushing role too today,
right?
Thursday. So yeah, I mean, I think that was really interesting too. Is like all of a sudden you're like, wait, is that 58 on the edge? Yeah. So like, whether it's Luvu, whether it's Jamin, that seems to be a part of playing, outside linebacker. So that's, I'd say, a positive for Jamin. But like, where are you, even with the threes in coverage, in doing linebacker stuff?
And I think the other thing, it's very hard to transition to defensive end. There's so much more. I saw him try to do a couple spin moves, didn't work out. So we'll see. But I think that's going to be one to watch. So anyway, Craig, tell people where you can find all your stuff.
Yeah, so 4 to 7 daily on the Team 980, which you can also listen to on the free. They like to tell you that it's free Odyssey app. And then if you can't listen between 4 and 7, we podcast the entire show. And then of course the Take Command podcast. Anywhere you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, you can definitely check that out. Well, I guess not on the Empire page. That'd be cool if we did a nice little collaboration. But on the Team 980 or 106.7 The Fans YouTube page, me and Logan Paulson, a couple times a week, talking ball, having fun, making jokes. Some of them are even funny.
My kids tell me I'm never, so it's, we'll go there, but that doesn't matter. It's all about annoying them. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks to Craig for joining me. Thank you for listening. I'll be back on Sunday after practice, wrapping up another day. Talk to you next time.